Okay, Floyd, I got your Stryker here. So I just set the frequency for you. So it was at 27,204,993. So we did bump it up a little bit, and it's 2 kilohertz resolution there. So it's pretty tight spacing to make that test for you. So you should be good there. FM power on this, they're showing 43. I think I can give you a little over 50 is better. Not going to be a huge change there, but low power, I'll give you about 1. That's close enough to 1. FM deviation, we'll see where it's at. It's at about 3.1, so that's pretty good, but I'm going to bump it up for you to about 4.1. Oh, this is just like the 955, so it only goes up to 3.9, but that's better than where it was. Okay, for AM, so you wanted yours like I set up that 955 I showed you, so I'm going to set it up like that. So max power on AM will be 10 for the carrier. Minimal power, I'm going to set it to 1/2 watt. That way you have just a little bit more adjustability, 1/2 watt. So, and I may start doing that with all the radios, 1/2 watt. So local customer, he's going to buy a 955 plus, he wants 1/2 watt. So 1/2 watt's fine. So we're going to obviously have to bump this up. And now we're going to run the modulation at 1/2 watt. Oops, I need to get out of this. I'll be right back. I'm tired of hearing that tone. Okay, so here's our 1/2 watt. And we're going to modulate this and look at the scope. So you're going to see a ton of overshoot in the beginning. And then it settles down. So that's the reason why these radios do what they do. That's why you get that high swing ratio out of these radios, because they do overshoot somewhat with voice, and eventually, you know, once that tone stabilizes, the limiter kicks in. Well, with voice, these radios are set, there's a timing in firmware, I believe, that's done where the limiter doesn't always engage. So it's very like retroactive, and that's what gives you that high level of swing. Now, is it the textbook way? Is it the proper way? Absolutely not. But you know, we don't always have to worry about that and run like that in this hobby. People like to have fun, and certain radios that are textbook and totally locked into just running a certain way, I think they're kind of boring at times, and I think a lot of guys feel the same way. So people don't want a dry, boring radio. They want a little bit more excitement. This is, again, the 1/2 watt carrier, so what we're going to do is kind of zoom in at the negative and just have a peek at it. I don't want to take it too far. Now keep in mind, as you increase your carrier, it will come up the modulation level, but you can see we're pinching off big time, so we don't want to go that sharp, and it's not going to help you any. So I'll try to maintain some semblance of a clean signal here, regardless of what might happen with voice. So it's showing about, what, 93%, and we don't have a huge flat line there, so, but it's a very strong envelope, so that's going to be how it's going to be there. Now I just unplugged the mic and plugged it back in, so that's why that sharp peak is there. You can say what you will about it. You know, if you're a textbook guy and you want things to be a certain way, then you can respect that too, but I'm not really trying to preach to the choir anymore about stuff. I really don't care. If people want to run how they run, that's fine by me. Okay, so this is the high power of the 655 HPC Plus. So we're gonna send the tone, and you can see that really big ramp up and then settle down, which is normal for these kind of radios. So that's what it looks like, a little more textbook how it should look. And then over here it's saying about 97%, so we'll come out of here and go here, and it looks really nice there. 10 watts going up to almost 50. And then RMS wise, 10 watts going to a little over 20 at times. So really about double the average RMS is about perfect, I think, to maintain a more cleaner signal. If you modify the radio and take it 3-4 times RMS, then yeah, it's gonna do what it's gonna do. But I question I guess in the end, other than driving an amplifier, really the point of it, I think it's just to drive an amplifier. So if you can get by without that, then obviously the signal will remain a lot cleaner regardless. But anyways, we're back into the standard radio mode, and there's our 10 watts. Now this is the RMS setting. So with voice now, 1 2 3 4 5, check check, hello, 1 2 1 2, hello. So it's still about double, about 25 or so. It's not too bad. But what you're going to see over here is on the scope, you will see some flat topping and some negative compression, negative clipping. And this is the design of this radio, so we can't work against the design of the radio. Obviously, what you see here is not a true interpretation. Like, you don't sound distorted, you don't sound overmodulated. There's just certain things these radios just don't do. So, number one, they don't sound distorted or overmodulated. Now, if you turn it up all the way in the menu, I don't know. I don't do that, so I can't comment on that. But, and then over here is our analysis of the RF signal as it passes through the sampler. And we can see, you know, high level of modulation, but also it's maintaining its 10 kilohertz spacing from the next channel over on each side of the screen. So, you know, one could say, well, it's a splatter radio. Well, okay, show me, this is 100K here, show me where it's splattering, because I don't see it. And, you know, this is a pretty high quality piece of gear here for just the hobbyist or something. You know, this isn't like a $30,000 piece of test equipment, but for what we're doing here, you don't need that. If somebody were to spend that kind of money on what we're doing here, more power to them, but I would highly question what you're trying to gain from getting some really precise instrument like that. So what I'm saying here is, you know, for what we see here, this is a really clean signal. So we can kind of bump that down in half. Here's 50K. So the center always stays at 205, and then there's 50K right there. So, you know, 1 2 3 4 5, check check. So again, you can make your own assumption of what you think of this. If this kind of high level modulation isn't for you, then that's fine. There's other radios out there that are much cleaner, but then again, they're kind of boring on the AM side of the hobby. And you kind of, aside from, you know, you having a sense that you're better, maybe because your radio is less aggressive, I guess, you know. I mean, it's all about what somebody wants out of the hobby, that's all I'll say. But I prefer to run like this, honestly. So here's our 10 watts carrier, and then 1 2 3 4 5, check check. So really, we've seen, you know, technically the same out of this radio now. I set this one up a little bit different than the one I showed you, Floyd, because I did bump it down to a 1/2 watt carrier, which I'll show that in a minute. But you're seeing about 100 watts PP, maybe slightly more, and that's really what these do. So if you look at the front of the radio, you can see there that, you know, it pretty much puts it in the corner. If that's something, you know, it's just more kind of like, it looks cool, but it doesn't really mean anything. We'll roll this down to that 1/2 watt to that 1/2 watt setting there, and then we can kind of see that we're all over the place. So, you know, the power is a little less responsive, you know. It kind of needs a little more carrier than what we're giving it, but you can see there huge spikes of power from a low carrier. Now if you don't have a meter like this, you're probably never going to see this kind of power, so just keep that in mind. We'll flip this one on. Yeah, these are extra happy. Your bird meters kind of will react the same way. They detect some voltage and they just kind of go with it. There's not enough measurement on the screen. The circuitry of the peak circuit of this, or like a bird, just, you know, once it gets something, it just kind of goes with it. Where like this takes multiple measurements per second, so obviously what you see here is going to be way more accurate, but you know, it is what it is. People like to see the bird style meter or this, so that's why I show it. Let's increase this up to about 1 watt like I showed in that video. There's our 1 watt. So there's our 1 watt right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check 1, 2. Hello radio. Hello radio. So as you see, even if you add just a little bit of a half a watt more carrier, then you get more, you know, more reliable, I guess, power in a sense. So this is what I think most of the American high power 10 meter radio user guys would want to see out of their AM setup on their radio. So you can call it whatever you want, name the radio whatever you want, but if it's not going to give you some stuff like this, then most guys probably aren't going to be as happy with it. It doesn't matter how well it works on sideband. If a guy wants it to work a certain way in AM and it doesn't, he's probably going to disregard the radio. And I understand that, and I'm not against it, but we can only do what companies allow us to do with radios to a certain extent. So that's why I like these for that. And again, I'll come over here. And again, you can see here very, very high overshoots, which is what gives you that high power from such a low carrier. You can see 100, 200, sometimes overshoots of 300% or more of modulation with some negative clipping of the carrier. But you know, with a tone, this thing looks rather clean, so don't judge a book by its cover. Under a tone is how we would test modulation. It looks clean, but you know, for wanting a certain way to run in the hobby, this is why the radios are designed this way. So you know, you're not going to get 1 watt swinging 80 or 90 on a dozy meter or something like that, so don't even try it, because it's never going to happen. If you do have that, then I would seriously not run that radio, because that would be scary. Invest the money in a good meter is all I can say, because at the end of the day, it really just helps you with your equipment and all that stuff. So again, even if we look over here, we need to scale this just a little bit better. So let me do that, and then I'm going to end this one, because it's been a long one. Okay, so there's our 1 watt. Everything's scaled properly now. Does it really make a huge difference? Not really, but so when we speak now with that high level modulation, you can still see, obviously, you know, in our 20 kilohertz spacing on either side of the carrier where we are with things as far as where the power's going. It still stays where it should for the most part. Everything is well below that 0 dBm line, which is a good thing. Obviously this doesn't really read peak envelope power on the screen, so what we're seeing here is more like a relative, like an RMS reading in some ways, but you know, for the majority of us, we can understand what we're seeing here, probably, that you know, we're not spreading out farther than what we should. So if you don't understand what you're looking at, that's okay. I mean, I don't expect everybody to understand what they're seeing here, but it's pretty simple when you look at it, like what you look at here. If you count these boxes, each one of these boxes is going to represent a certain amount, so of this divided by how many boxes you see. Or you can look at it 2723, 2718, 27205. So as I speak, you can see where the power goes. This is kind of like a meter in a different way, because it measures the and it shows on a display, you know, what we're seeing in real time as I speak, and everything below that 0 dBm is definitely a non-factor in, you know, the interference side of the hobby. You know, we're not going to cause interference here. So obviously, if you were across the town from me a little bit, and say I was on one channel and you were on 21, you very well could still get some bleed over. So we can't take that part of the hobby away. That bleed over not only is caused by dirty radios and stuff like that, amplifiers, but it's also caused by just general close proximity to somebody. And sometimes skip can do that. It can mimic somebody being across town that's across the country. So skip can intensify signals to the point where they overtake local signals, and guys, oh man, that guy's running a horrible dirty station. Well, I mean, technically he may not be, but when skip is ramped up to a point where it's overtaking local, it's almost like you could consider those guys to be local. So don't always judge a book by its cover. But I don't know what's going on out there. We'll hook this up to the antenna really quick, and then we'll call your order a wrap. And don't forget, you're getting the free mic. Here's the receiver. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes the bleed over is just close proximity. You know, you're never going to get away with it. So people can judge people and, oh, look how bad a station he runs. Well, how close are you to me? You know, nobody. I mean, you could be on a walkie-talkie on a base antenna with some range and cause bleed over at least a channel or two. I mean, it's just the way signals work. So if he wasn't bleeding me over at that signal strength, he would sound puny and would be barely putting out any signal. So but that's just stuff that, you know, people have a certain agenda maybe on videos and stuff, and they want to just hee-hee and ha-ha and all that. So when you truly understand and been in the hobby long enough, you don't really care about stuff like that anymore. What I always learned was back in those days was if you're getting bleed over, you're probably giving it too. So it's a two-way street. Turns out great. That's the closest guy to me right there. The guy with the... Like, yeah, that home's horrible. Yes, it is. If he got rid of that home, he could just clear up this all just as clear. Yeah, he's running his amp too hard. You got a DC hum in there, you key down and the whole time you key down. Yeah, you might want to turn your carrier down on your amp. Your radio sounds like shit. Fix the hum. I told you that this morning and you just kept riding with it. Alright. You running that on the power supply? I guess not. I'm sure you got a power supply over there. You're running one of them. You're running the exact same amp I got in line, and I think he's running one of them gray Galaxy bases, the 2547, is it? I get them numbers mixed up. Yeah, but that hum about to take him out. I love that 2527. I got one. I love a 959. I've never had the bass version of it, but man, a 959's a badass radio. I got the 2527 and the 2547. I got both of them, and they're great radios. Had them done up by Dale. Rod Joe, man, Dale do
put in it. In the 47. I just say we're usually getting in to cut grass once a week, but
Some skip out there.
Oh shoot, I turned it down. How about that? Looking like. Man, that thing sounds beautiful.
Yeah, the guy's always running his dead key too high on his amp. Sounds a lot better over here too. Good morning.
Morning 269, sometime called Ninja.
I think you were just killing yourself with carrier there, man, on that. You get the RF power up too high. That amp don't need a lot of dead key.
Good morning, Ninja. I can't hear you, but good morning.
Yeah, morning there, Grampy. You should be able to hear me, but maybe you can't. I'm probably getting stepped on.
I can barely hear you, Brad. I can hear you, man.
Yeah, I'm running that low dead key.
I turned it down to 1 watt. To the northeast there, Ninja. You probably pop right up in there for him. I turned it down to 1 watt. You're supposed to come over sometime and help me put it together.
Yeah, it's better at 1 watt. I'd leave it there, man. I wouldn't touch it. Yeah, I had the dead key on this thing down at like a half a watt or a watt, so I turned it up a little bit. But I'm pointing northwest a little bit, so that could be why.
Hey, there you go. Coming in loud and clear. About 3 keyed up at the same time, Grampy, when you was talking about you did something with your antenna. Somebody supposed to come over there and help you put it together or something. Yeah, Mike said he'd help me put the antenna together. Hey, there you go, man. He's out here a little earlier, but he disappeared. Oh, believe me, that's thinking about still reading the mail.
Well, I sure do like that key up you got there, Water. That's really nice.
Thank you. Yeah, you heard me, Ben. You busy today?
Alright, I had enough fun for this morning. I'm going to get on out of here. That's your radio there, Floyd, so I hope you enjoy it. She's working good. 73.